What was your, when did you first learn about the directive?
On the social media, that's where I picked it up. And then he then called, I think, was it, I'm not sure whether it was the first or the second, but early January, that the letter that is circulating, he wrote the letter, because I thought it's fake.
Is that the usual way you learn about what the minister decides or has decided, that you learn about it on social media?
Well, that's not a right way. We have been interacting all along about everything that is to do with policing, but this specific one, that's how we learned about it, unfortunately.
I was asking more about some of these briefings that would have been structured, where you go to a meeting and presentations are made by various units and various sections within the police. Say, for an obvious example, on finance and how the budget works and how that's allocated and so on.
Yeah, thank you. We had briefings that deals with the respective divisions within SAPS. We'll have briefings on visible policing. We'll have briefings on finances. We'll have briefings on detectives. We'll have briefings on DPCI, the Hawks. We had briefings on the civilian secretariat, and briefings on IPID. Each of these briefings, for instance, those that had to do with policing, in the main, the person at the center of the briefings will be the National Commissioner. And the National Commissioner, depending on which division are we dealing with, he will then invite relevant people who are responsible for the division. For instance, if it's visible policing, it will be led by the National Commissioner, and in attendance it will be the Deputy National Commissioner, Visible Policing, General Msikidi. And she will come with the divisional head, which is General Mamuteti in this regard. And the detectives will also have the similar approach, where you will have the the National Commissioner and the Deputy National Commissioner Detectives, General Sbia, who will then come with his components to that briefing. If the briefing also involves the crime intelligence, the National Commissioner will come with General Sbia, the DNC, and the Divisional Commissioner, which is General Kumalo, who will then do the detailed briefings of that specific item. When we dealt with human resource development, it will be the National Commissioner, it will be the acting DNC of human resource, and then it will be the Divisional Commissioner who is responsible for that space. And in this instance, because the organizational design, for instance, falls within that department, that division, you will then have the study group that is responsible for organizational development, making a presentation on the structure of police. So we'll have those intense discussions, but all of them are led by the National Commissioner as the accounting officer.
And obviously during those briefings there'd be questions and answers and interaction, exchange of views and things like that. Now, what would be of particular interest would be the briefing on organizational design, the organizational structure, and so on. That is where you discuss the various components within the police and so on. Was there any specific focus on any of the dedicated task teams? We know within SAPS, and in fact you must confirm with us whether some of these task teams still exist, like for example child trafficking, abduction, mining, extortion. These are task teams that we know were established.
Yeah.
To your knowledge, do they still exist?
Yes, they do.
Now those task teams, and of course you know where I'm heading, the political killings task team. If you discuss the organogram and the organizational structure, they wouldn't necessarily appear on the board or wherever the president. No.
Yeah. When a presentation was made on the organizational structure, we were discussing the structure in terms of what is there and what are the challenges that we are confronted with as a country, and will engage. And in the process of discussions with the officials, we then arrive at a determination, for instance, around the inspectorate, where we resolve that in terms of the structure and where we are, we need more men and women on the ground to fight crime, and we therefore resolve that we don't need to continue with the inspectorate, because the function that they perform is a function that the civilian secretariat, they can easily perform that function, because they do visit police station to look at their operations and their functionality. So we then agreed to do away with that structure, and the personnel involved there is going to be placed in different responsibilities. And beside that, we looked at visible policing. We had a division of visible policing, and when we discussed it, we came to the conclusion that yes, it's a necessary function, but the way it is structured, we also need the capability to put boots on the ground to deal with crime. And therefore, it will assist us greatly if we can separate visible policing and operational response, which were made one, and we then separated them. And we said, if we can structure ourselves in this way, we can become more effective in dealing with the problems or the challenges that we are confronted with. So broadly, that is how we discussed the new organizational structure, which was signed off, I think, this is somewhere this year, May. I'm not sure of the exact date, but it took a while to finalize, because you must consult with the unions and everybody concerned until you all agree this is the structure that you want to have.
Was there any discussion about integrating or reintegrating some of these task teams into, for example, murder and robbery? Because that is the one category component that you have.
Yes, we did talk of strengthening murder and robbery, because that's our biggest problem. You have many people who get killed in the country. One which it creating a lot of problems, like the killing of traditional leaders. The House of Traditional Leaders have had engagement with us around that matter. So, and it's that and the killings that are taking place in the country, the Cape Flats, we have been here, communities are complaining about that. So we felt we must strengthen murder and robbery unit so that we can become effective in terms of the investigative capacity of our detectives around murder-related crime in the country.
Can you recall when you discussed organizational design, organizational structure, and would the political killings task team, would that have been specifically highlighted? Would it have been specifically mentioned, or was it just mentioned in passing?
Well, it might have been mentioned in passing because we didn't, in the organizational structure, discuss political killings because it's a task team that was established to deal with a specific problem. Here we're talking about a structure that must define policing in the country.
So just in relation to the political killings task team, you were appointed in May 2019.
Yeah.
And you probably, you know by now that the interministerial committee was established by the president in May 2018. So just over a year later, you become a deputy minister. When was your first experience of the political task team? What do they do? How do they operate? Who's in command, etc.?
When I first became part of a meeting, it was somewhere in KZN where a meeting was convened, and I was. I'm sorry.
Maybe put the mic up.
Yeah.
Then you can sit a bit back.
I was invited to a meeting in KZN where a briefing was done by the political killings task team. The interministerial committee of this team was taken mainly from the JCPS cluster ministers. The Minister of Justice and the Minister of Police were part of this ministerial committee, and they below them were the operatives, where you had detectives and the prosecution authority comprising this team, which one might call a multidisciplinary team, and it also included the DPCI in that. So that was the team and how it was composed. The interministerial committee was the one that was politically responsible for the team in the 6th administration.
Would you, these interministerial committee meetings, they weren't frequent, they would be at most twice a year?
Yeah, no, they were not frequent.
Yeah. Would you attend these meetings?
I have attended 2 of them that I can recall, yes.
In your capacity as a deputy, or do you actually stand in for the minister?
I went in with the minister per his invitation, and of course, if the meeting is convened in his absence, then he will ask that I should attend. But what I recall are 2 meetings that I attended with him.
And at these meetings and the ones that you attended, you'd get a briefing from the political killings task team?
Yes, the operatives will be there and they will brief us about the work that they are doing.
Is that where you know Lieutenant General Mkhonazi and Lieutenant General Khumalo? I think maybe at the time he would have been a brigadier general.
Well, Lieutenant General Mkhonazi, I've known him before I went to attend the meeting of the PKTT. Yes, Khumalo, I met him for the first time there when I went to KZN, and there was a briefing and he was in attendance.
And what was your experience of them briefing you and telling you what they're doing, whether they're achieving any success?
Well, the effectiveness of the team is not in question. They did an excellent job. Since they were instituted, there was progress around killings of activists, what one might call political killings that took place. There were progress. In fact, the effectiveness has never been an issue that was questioned within the space.
And when you said it was never in question, it never rose at all in your discussions with former Minister Cele?
No. That question was never asked.
Beyond question.
Yeah, they were doing their job, and I believe they were doing a good job.
Okay. We know from former Minister Cele that the last briefing to the IMC, the Interministerial Committee, was in March of 2024. Was that before the elections?
Yeah.
So, did you attend that one?
Yes, I did in KZN, yeah, at the Provincial Commissioner's office.
Okay. And there was, did it follow the same format? There's a presentation to the IMC, and there's questions, I suppose, questions, answers, and so on. And what was your feeling when you left that meeting as far as the political killings task team is concerned?
Well, the meeting went well, and I didn't get an impression that there are problems around the team. I think everybody was happy with what was presented and what they were doing.
Okay. So, just to continue along that narrative, since it's also our focus, then we have the elections, and Minister Mchunu is appointed, and Minister Cele is disappointed. But we know, of course, why was he's given an explanation why he wasn't appointed. He was too low on the list or something like that. But what was your reaction to the appointment of Minister Mchunu?
Well, as I said earlier on, I was happy that he has been appointed minister, and that I was appointed deputy minister, and I was grateful that somehow the universe was aligned, that even though I have lost General Cele, whom by then we were working extremely well together, but I was given somebody else that I knew and that I've worked with, and I believed that we were going to make a good team.
Did Minister Mchunu have any specific discussions with you and or Deputy Minister Boshielo in relation to the political task team between July 2024 and December 2024?
Well, we have had, you see, come again with the question, Senior Counsel?
Did Minister Mchunu have any specific discussions with you or meetings with you and or Deputy Minister Boshielo in relation to the political killings task team between July 2024 and December 2024?
Yeah. Okay. No. I thought you were having a conversation. We have had discussions around the structure and the need for us to handle things in such a manner that we strengthen our capacities, so that you don't have to create task teams to deal with specific challenges, because we will have developed that capability within the police to deal with the challenges that we are confronted with. And it is in this context that the issues that we discussed around the PKTT took place.
In Minister Mchunu says that you can you recall having a meeting specifically with Minister Mchunu in November of 2024?
Yes, I might not. We have had many meetings with him. So
well, I'm talking about the task team.
That's why I said we did discuss the task team as we were discussing the problems that the structure and how we think the structure must be structured and how we must strengthen certain units like murder and robbery, so that we are able to address the problems of murder in the country. Because the political killings task team, it's a team that came as a result of the murder that was taking place amongst, which are politically related. That's why it was called political killings task team, but it is murder. And there was also the problem of the killing of traditional leaders, which is not political. It is murder as well. And killing of ordinary South Africans, because either it's a robbery or gang-related matters, which is murder. And the rate at which we resolve these crimes is worrisome. Hence the need to strengthen the unit that deals with murder and robbery, so that we are able to resolve any murder that takes place in the country. And in that context, then the issues of the task team like political killings.
You know by now that the minister issued his directive on the 31st of December 2024. Yeah. What was when did you first learn about the directive?
On the social media. That's where I picked it up. And then he then called, I think, was it, I'm not sure whether it was the 1st or the 2nd, but early January, that the letter that is circulating, he wrote the letter, because I thought it's fake.
the usual way you learn about what the minister decides or has decided, that you learn about it on social media?
Well, that's not a right way. We have been interacting all along about everything that is to do with policing, but this specific one, that's how we learned about it, unfortunately.
What was your reaction when you saw on social media that he had directed that the political killings task team be disbanded?
Well, as I said, I first dismissed it because it was odd for me to say something like that. And when he confirmed it himself, that he wrote it, and we must not be surprised. I didn't understand what could have motivated him to pen such a letter in the manner in which he did.
When did you first see the full text of the letter?
I'm not sure of the exact date, but yeah, I saw the full text. It was early January though, still. And I read it, and I had a problem because the way it was written, it was very difficult to comprehend how that is going to be realized, the content of the letter, because it was saying that the PKTT is disbanded with immediate effect. And that a close-up report must be submitted or a plan by 20 January, and then a close-up report by the end of the month. It was not practical to do those things.
So how would one describe your reaction to seeing this directive? Shocked, surprised?
It was unusual. It was unusual. And I mean, it was not exciting. It was just problematic, yeah.